Hey Rovers, this week I'm working on what will be the most defining and iconic characteristic of the Wave Rover 650, her beautifully cambered cabin. The Wave Rover 650, a design based on my single-handed ocean voyages. She's small, light, but easy to build and strong enough to cross any ocean. My name's Alan Mulholland, and this is the Wave Rover story. Now, I've been looking forward to working on the cabin top ever since I came up with the idea of creating that big cambered section in the after end of it. Now, even though it's quite pleasing to the eye, that wasn't my main reason for the design change. The design change simplifies the structure and, more importantly, strengthens the structure. Simple and strong, two important principles of the Wave Rover philosophy. Now let's crack on with building bulkhead number 3. Okay, so I'm ready to lay this out, and let me see if I can try to get a big picture here. So the ash batten that you see right along here, that's indicating the curve of the cabin top, which is this great big beautiful camber that I've been talking about. I mean, I suppose there's going to be plenty of people who don't like this look, but I think it's magnificent. Now bear in mind, you're looking at this in one dimension. The actual bulkhead itself is not going to be plumb, it's going to be inclined quite a bit. And the other thing is, it doesn't actually come to the edge of the batten here. These are the cabin sides right along here, and then it makes a sharp angle, and then we take over. Anyway, I'm happy with it. I've spent a few hours laying this out, making sure that I had enough space to accomplish everything, and yeah, I'm ready to mark it and then cut it. Well, it's time to make a commitment here to this curve. Okay. Now, I'll just say a word on this curve. So what I've done is there's a more increased curve at the top, and it flattens out a bit on the side. And my reasoning behind that is a little boat at sea is never level. A little boat at sea is always canted or inclined one way or another, this being athwartships. So when the boat is heeled over like this, there's nothing wrong with stepping up here and walking on what will be a segment, say like that, which is relatively flat, because I know there is some concern over, oh, it's so steep you'll roll right off the edge. No, not really. Second thing is, this curved section is really only going to be about 4 feet long, and then we'll go back to a camber very similar to what I did on the decks for the rest of the cabin. Anyway, I'm happy with this. I think this is going to be really cool. So now we're ready in all respects to install, or to do the first installation of this. It's going to take a couple of attempts, and the reason for that is the bottom right along here needs to be scribed to the curvature of the deck. Now, I've already taken a little bit out. I know I've only taken, well, I know the camber of the deck should be somewhere around here. So I still have about an inch to go. I took about an inch off here just to make it a little bit easier to scribe. And the second thing I've done is I've put these These are just temporary, and they're at the right angle of the bulkhead. And they're, I'll just show you how I went about them. So the angle is determined by, it's not overly difficult. It's determined by how long the cabin top is going to be over to the next bulkhead. And sheets of plywood come 4 feet wide. So I've made this so that by the time you get to the top of this curvature, the horizontal section will just make it to the next main bulkhead. Now, of course, 4 feet is a big span. There are 2 ring frames in between the bulkhead and this bulkhead, so there's plenty of support. Anyway, these 4 ought to do it. I should be able to secure the aft bulkhead against them. Now, time to get on with that. So the trick with so much carpentry is to have center lines established, and then you can line up your center lines, and once you've done that, then you don't need to be at both ends checking. You can always come back and do that a bit later, but this gets us started. Okay. So now we're going to get a screw into those temporary supports. These holes will have to be filled at a later date. There we go. All right, let's stand back and just take a look and inspect what we have. Well, it seems that the camber that I drew and cut, just a rough camber, is pretty much dead on, and it should be. It was done from an offcut of the deck camber. All right, and now I will accurately scribe the camber. Now, if you've been following along in the Wave Rover series, you've seen me scribe other parts before. All you really need to do is get yourself an appropriate piece of wood. And what exactly is that? You need something the thickness so that the pencil zeroes out right at the widest point, which it is right there. And then it's just a matter of holding that piece of wood perpendicular and then just pulling it along. Make sure you're nice and solid in your contact. And there we have a scribed line. So that's what our scribed line looks like. It zeroes out to pretty much nothing in this corner and then travels along the length. Easy to see. And we'll just take the jigsaw to this now and we'll make our cut. Now the camber has been cut, and you don't have to worry about being overly precise because this is going to end up with a huge epoxy fillet, biaxial glass, and it'll be very solid. In fact, the more epoxy fillet you get in there, the stronger the joint will be. Something else I did was I improved the supports by putting some solid wood beside them so that the screws can bite into something a little more solid instead of the end grain, because I realized that I'll be putting this on, checking the fit, then I'll be taking it off to do some more work, and there's several steps to this, and you'll see that as we go along. So I need something that's a little more resilient for screws to hold into. All right, now it's time to actually do our proper test fit. Okay. That's looking absolutely fantastic. So let's just take a look at this scribe joint from the inside. That looks really good. We have a nice fit all the way around. And bear in mind, you don't need to have it this tight, but it doesn't hurt either. So there's plenty to do. Next, we have to reinforce this upper section. Oh, I'm off camera. Reinforce this upper section up here with some solid wood. And I have a couple of thoughts. I'm going to go to the other side and express them to you. Now, over the last few days, as I've been laying out the lines and doing some planning, I was thinking about the hatch. And let me see if I can hold the camera and do this at the same time. So on the hatch here, I have, starting down there, that's a good 3 inches off the deck, and up to a point that I've determined at 22.5 inches, I can build a hatch that's 22.5 inches tall and as wide as I want. Here I have it at 20 inches wide, but I could make that wider. And what I'm thinking is more a door style hatch that would be hinged and then would open horizontally, and I'd be able to get in and out. Of course, you'd need some handholds to be able to swing in and get out, but I can make a perfectly watertight hatch. And on that hatch, sort of in the center here, I can even put a port light so I can see what's happening behind Wave Rover, after Wave Rover, and if there's an oncoming wave, just don't open the door. Yeah, so I'd like to get your input on this. Let me know what you think. Should I go with the original Wave Rover hatch that you saw in the little animated section, or do you think I should go with a door style like this? And what do you think of those dimensions, 22.5 inches tall by 20 inches wide? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. I'm curious what you have to think, because oftentimes I get terrific ideas from you guys. Anyway, time to crack on with the next step. I'll go on the inside and let you see what the height looks like. So I'm standing in here to give you some sort of feeling for the scale of what we have. And some of you are probably saying, hey, look at that, you've got full headroom. And it's not exactly the case. I'm about 5'7", more or less, and the floor hasn't been put in the boat yet, so there'll be a good 6 inches, and then that will probably put me just, I'll be stooping just a little bit in here, but that's fine, because I know from experience on small boats, when you're on the ocean, you are never standing upright. You are sitting down and holding on. Hence the reason I was, when I came up with this concept and I was talking to the architect, I said, I'm very happy to have sitting headroom throughout. And he was delighted with that, because if you want standing headroom on the boat and you want that boat to be, to perform, well, you just need to go somewhere around 26 to 28 feet to get that. And bear this in mind, I didn't have standing headroom on the original Wave Rover. The Contessa's don't have that, and they're fine boats. So yeah, I'm happy with the curve. I'm happy with the joint. There's a lot more to do. We'll be cracking on with that right away. When you design a boat, it's really just lines that have been laid out on a piece of paper. Now, when I started this project, and I was talking to Andy, that's the naval architect who drew up the design, well, we had that conversation where we said, as you start to build it, and you get to see the scale and the space, that's when new possibilities may come to light. For example, right here where I'll have to step up from the deck up to the cabin top to get forward, well, quite likely I'll build a step that will be part of this structure, and it's going to increase the strength of this structure, but it can also serve a different purpose. The step, yes, but some sort of deck storage. I can do that in the port and starboard side. That's just an example of what's happening on the prototype or on the first design. Well, you've all heard me talk about how I'm battling the weather. It's because the temperatures really present a challenge when you're trying to glue up, either with glue or even with the PVA glues that I use. So it looks as though the next week I have relatively benign temperatures. We're not talking Florida type temperatures, but a lot warmer than you would typically expect of a maritime winter. And so I'm going to take advantage of that break. I'm going to stop working on this bulkhead, and I'm going to really make a big effort to get all the ring frames in, because once I get those in, I can then just cover over the boat and just heat the inside. You see, this building is an unheated structure, and that's part of the challenge. So until next time, Rovers, thanks for watching, and I wish everybody just the very, very best Christmas ever. I'd like to take a moment to honor the Wave Rover benefactors. So what is a benefactor? Well, these folks have made a contribution of $100 US or more to the project, and their names will be affixed to a bulkhead inside Wave Rover and will be traveling with me on our circumnavigation. Now, these donations truly are much appreciated. Well, the Wave Rover patrons, with their pledges of support, really do make the creation of these videos possible. Now, if you'd like to know more about Wave Rover's patron page and benefactors bulkhead, I have links to both those pages in the video description. Now, another way to help Wave Rover, and it doesn't cost you a dime, is by sharing our content on your social media. So now, as always, Rovers, thanks for watching. Give us one more.